So our one stop on the ride home today is going to be at the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force, and this place looks huge. So it'll be a lot of fun. Love air shows and military and stuff. So this is going to be a neat walkthrough. So let's see what kind of fun we can find in here. So this is National Museum of the U.S. Air Force, just outside Dayton, Ohio. It is free admission. As you can see, all the hangars, it's big. Open almost every day of the year. I think it's except Thanksgiving and Christmas. And free admission, of course, is always a good selling point for me. But yeah, that's just one hangar of a bunch. And there's a couple planes outside as well. There was a C-5 Hercules and a couple others. Can't wait to see what's inside. So after walking through the gift shop and entry area, you can make a right turn and enter into the very first hangar and just look at all the planes. This is the vintage, and it comes all the way up through modern times. They've got Air Force Ones here to walk through later on, and missiles and World War II. So going to be a very neat walkthrough. Confirm this yet, but I think that's a Fokker triplane up there. That may actually be the first one of those I've ever seen. And what's also kind of neat is they actually have this model of the balloons there. And actually, I think that may be one of the air raid balloons that they would put up in World War I. My first thought was a dirigible, but I don't believe so. I believe that was meant to keep planes from being able to fly into the cities. They would hoist those things up, and the planes would get caught up in all the strings and ropes. Let's see more of the early gallery here and all the different planes. Love everything they have in here. You got the SPAD. It's actually an observation balloon. They have that marked. And what's really nice is that right below the triplane is its nemesis, the Sopwith Camel. The models they have in here are just incredible. Model is the wrong word. But examples of aircraft. I mean, you can see some very successful planes in here. P-12 back there. This is the P-6E Hawk. There's your P-12. And then you have some others that you just kind of have a feeling we're not quite as successful. First attempted a helicopter. Well, not the first, but one of the early ones. And this one looks like it might have actually gotten off the ground, but I don't know how well. It's wonderful walking through because you can just see how the aircraft have progressed. We've gone from the paper cloth covered Sopwiths and triplanes to now we've got these, and eventually we'll be making our way around to World War II. This is the entry to the World War II section, and right off the bat you can see the memory of the prison camps and the Holocaust. One of these days I'll get to the National Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., but the one in Israel was very powerful. May we remember the lessons of that war and not repeat them. I'm just going to panorama here a little bit inside the World War II hangar. Just the immense number of aircraft in here. And you can see fighters, there's bombers in here. Looks like a Constellation. So many aircraft. You can see military helicopters over there. I'm actually standing right next to a Zero.
Yep, you're right.
So much in here. I think my biggest problem I'm going to have today is because we're stopping on the way home. We've got a 13-hour drive, and I'm looking at this place and going, man, I could spend 13 hours in here. Okay, so the history nut in me just, this plane is fascinating. This is a B-25B Mitchell. This is actually what Doolittle's Raiders used. They took these bombers and put them on aircraft carriers headed out into the middle of the Pacific, and then they used these things to bomb Tokyo for the first time, launching off aircraft carriers. They didn't even know if they were going to manage to take off or if they were going to end up crashing into the water. They left with only enough fuel to basically do the bombing and then try to jump across the water and get over to China and essentially crash land safely. Not everybody made it, but that is the plane that Doolittle's Raiders flew right there. Absolutely incredible. One of the more famous and well-known aircrafts here is the Memphis Belle. Yes, they've actually made movies about this plane. And incredible story. You can see the side turret there and the ball turret. You ever want to get a cramped, claustrophobic feeling? Look at how they used to sit in those ball turrets. And just a horrible, horrible job to have to do. But the plane is restored beautifully. Looks absolutely gorgeous. Another look through some of the planes. Yes, they do have guided tours here. See one of the early military cargo planes. Seaplanes. And then B-29. There's a Flying Fortress in here. Now, I did make a mistake earlier. I said something about a Constellation. Don't see a Constellation here. But just incredible selection of aircraft. Really neat display here in the World War II section. As you can see, each of the main countries fighting. You can see their Air Force and the crews. They've also got a couple other countries you normally wouldn't see, such as Brazil. There's Italy. And at the very end of it, you actually have Mexico, too. So, neat representation. The next hall has a whole bunch of different things. This is Korea, over to the right. You can see there's a motion simulator there. You can see some of the planes, experimental aircraft that are there. You get to walk through that big boy. Fighter planes, robotics competition going on. Hey, check that little guy out. And then for the kids, they can build wood balsa gliders. But there's also a whole lot of aircraft over there from Korea. So we're going to poke around in here for a little while. You may hear about MiG Alley during the Korean War. This is the Sabre. That's the U.S. jet fighter that was flying during that. And of course, MiG Alley is where they were encountering the Soviets and having to fight with them. Well, what did the Soviets fly? There's the MiG that they were flying at the time. Side by side. Vietnam side, they've got a model of a B-52. Gives you a little bit of an idea of what a Stratofortress would be like. And just the huge amount of bombs and things. Yeah, not just in the payload, but also on the wings. And that plane, many would say, won the Cold War. So this is the section that my stepfather would be most familiar with. My stepfather, when he served in Vietnam, actually helped clear airfields. And much of his unit did not make it back. And I believe it was for the helicopters and rescues. So it would have been these guys there, as well as probably the Hueys, that he would have been trying to clear out a safe space for them to land, to be able to bring in troops and other supplies and equipment and evacuate wounded soldiers. This is an F-4, and this plane's actually kind of personal to me. Even though it got its main service during Vietnam, we were living down in Southern California and we're attending a air show at Point Mugu, and they were actually using F-4s for some of their missile testing squadron, and they were flying past us in formation with 2 F-4s and I believe it was a couple F-15s. And as they were pulling off one by one, the last F-4, something happened, his engine flared out, and we watched him go down and took both pilots with him. So So every time I see that, kind of pulls at my heartstrings just a little bit as I remember that day. Not the best air show that we were at. I am going to correct myself, my faulty memory. This is apparently a legit one. I just remember them being much bigger. Must be because I was a kid. But yeah, 159 feet long. This is one that actually saw service before being flown here. Gotta love when you get old and your memory starts to go. What's kind of fun here is in the Korea and Vietnam section you have an F-22 Raptor. Kind of in the wrong era, but such a neat plane. Love how the missiles are actually enclosed inside, how preserve the stealth capability. Pretty plane. Pretty plane. That'll be fun to fly in sometime. This is the Cold War end, and you can see all sorts of planes in here. There's actually some presidential planes down there. And just a neat museum. We're trying to squeeze this in a couple hours, and I'm just going, oh, I wish I had more time. Another look at all the planes. This place is an all-day visit. It really is. And we're trying to squeeze it in here. So much to see in here. If you're into military aircraft at all, you will absolutely love this. I mean, they've got some unique planes that I don't know if I've ever seen before. See the ball turrets there from some of the bombers. And then just look at this thing. All the way down. And yes, you can actually walk right up underneath it. You want to know what it looks like inside a bomber? Well, we can show you. How about that? Cool. It's really cool. Not only do they have planes, they even have Knight Rider. Yeah, this is the remodel kit, I think. Maybe. Okay, maybe not. But hey, I like it. Don't pick on me. It's actually got nitro in there. This thing's a drag racer. See, I remember as a time as a kid when the U.S. government wouldn't even admit that these existed. Yeah, that's an SR-71 Blackbird. Used to fly the spy missions, and it's funny how they didn't want to admit that. And then, of course, you got this little guy over here. Tailless flying wing. There's an F-16 over there. One of the old Thunderbird planes. Oh, so much to see. Really actually impressed, almost amazed at some of the aircraft they have there. That is the B-1B Stealth Lancer bomber. You know, and then after having the B-2 stealth bomber. So we've got a couples that I'm very impressed are in here because they're ones that they don't talk about. Of course, you see the F-15 there. It's sitting actually right next to a MiG-29 Fulcrum, which is kind of the Soviet counterpart for it. Then, of course, we've got the stealth fighter right there. So, again, several of the stealth planes in here, which I'm really surprised, impressed. Of course, you can see other experimental things up on top. There's a C-130. And then the one plane, if you're on the ground, you don't want to hear coming at you. That's right. There is a Warthog. Love the A-10s. Some of the toughest aircraft ever. But then they've got even little things like Ospreys in here. Which you may love or you may hate the Osprey. So here's something nice and unique for you. How about a plane with a built-in escape pod? This is the F-111A, and that whole compartment there is actually designed to be able to break away, just like that, in case it has issues. But unique aircraft. In fact, this one has some history. this incredible view of all these planes. This is from the overlook of the snack bar. And then you actually get a view of the U2, which is really hard to see down the ground. So if you come up to the snack bar, you can actually come over to this overlook area here and you can see the missiles that they have positioned. Very, very cool. Much too big to get into any sort of normal picture, but a really nice overlook to the gallery. And the walkway actually leads around to another whole place, and that'll be where they have the presidential planes. And then the very last gallery, we're coming up from the overlook by the snack bar. You can kind of see they've got rockets and space capsules, essentially flying missiles. There's another SR-71. And then they've got this big, huge mock-up here. And that's not a real shuttle, that is a mock-up. And then they've also got several former Air Force Ones hiding in the back. All sorts of stuff to check out. Let's look at the transport planes here. You can see this one's open to walk through. And then you can see there's 1, 2, 3 former Air Force Ones back here. And yes, you can walk through all of them. Actually, there might even be a 4th one hiding in the back. I see another SirWillow way back there. So we have been here about 2.5 hours and we've barely scratched the surface. Unfortunately, we have a 9-hour drive ahead of us still, so we don't have a whole lot of time to check out more. This is actually a place that I really, really hope that I can make my way back to and come see again, because there's so much here. There's actually 4 Air Force Ones you get to walk through. You've got Roosevelt's, Eisenhower's is there, Truman's is there, and then Kennedy and Johnson's is there. And neat to see the increase in ability. We haven't even looked at the space stuff here, and we've really just been kind of glancing and walking and shooting pictures and not really spending anywhere near the time I would love to be able to spend here. So much. And of course it's free. So if you're ever in the Dayton, Ohio area, definitely a place to come check out and prepare to spend a whole lot more than 2.5 hours. I wish I had the time to do it. So very cool. In fact, as I turn the corner here, you'll even get to see that is all stuff there I didn't get to see. But neat place. Come check it out.